The night I told my mother I was in T, giving up my dream school for my younger sister was the same night my life was packed into black trash bags and left by the front door. I remember standing there, staring at my clothes like they belonged to someone else, thinking this has to be rock bottom. I was wrong. Rock bottom came years later, under blinding hospital lights, with my mother's chest open and a heart monitor screaming flat, unforgiving lines. Back then, though I was just 18, barely an adult, barely breathing, I still remember the way my hands shook when I opened the envelope with the crimson seal. Harvick, I said it out loud, just to make sure it was real. My chest felt like it might burst. I waited for cheers, for tears, for pride. Instead, the kitchen went quiet in a way that felt dangerous. My mother's smile froze. My father stared at the floor. My sister wouldn't look at me. Harvard is expensive, my mother finally said, like she was talking about groceries, not my future. And your sister needs stability right now. She's fragile. You're strong. You'll be fine anywhere. That word again. Strong, like it was a compliment, but it felt more like a sentence. I tried everything. Scholarships, loans, working 2 jobs, living in a shoebox. None of it mattered. My mother crossed her arms and leaned back in her chair like the discussion was already over. If you really loved this family, she said calmly, you would stay. You owe us that. That was the first time she said it. You owe us. When I came home from my diner shift that night, the acceptance letter was gone. I found it crumpled in the trash, stained with coffee grounds, as it had never meant anything. When I demanded to know what she'd done, she didn't even hesitate. We called them, she said. You're not going. You'll attend a local school, live at home, and help your sister. Family comes first. I told her she couldn't make that choice for me. She looked me dead in the eye and said, if you choose that school, don't bother choosing this family. An hour later, my clothes were in trash bags. My childhood ended in plastic. I walked out that night believing I was the selfish one, believing that wanting more meant betraying everyone I loved. What I didn't know yet was that this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the first bill they expected me to pay. And years later, when my mother lay dying and whispered, you owe me. Save me, I finally had the power to decide whether that debt was real or if it was never mine to carry at all. After that night, survival became my full-time job. I bounced between friends' couches, cheap sublets, and night shifts that blurred together. I learned how to sleep sitting up, how to stretch one meal into 2, and how to smile when people asked why I never went home for holidays. When a small state university scholarship finally came through, I took it without hesitation. It wasn't Harvard, but it was mine, and I treated it like oxygen. I buried myself in classes, in labs, in textbooks so heavy they bruised my ribs when I carried them. Premd wasn't just a goal anymore. It was proof that I hadn't been erased. Whenever anyone mentioned parents, I kept it vague. We're not close, I'd say, like distance had been mutual instead of forced. The truth is, I tried. At least at first. My father left voicemails I didn't listen to. My mother sent long emails that started politely and ended sharply, always circling back to the same accusation that I had torn the family apart. I archived most of them unopened. I told myself I was protecting my peace. Maybe I was. Or maybe I was just too tired to keep begging people who had already chosen. For years, guilt followed me everywhere. I wondered if I'd been less ambitious, less stubborn, easier would they have loved me enough to let me go. That question haunted me through exams, through failures, through nights when I stared at the ceiling, wondering why loving your family always seemed to require shrinking yourself. What made it worse was that my mother hadn't always been cruel. I still remember being 7 years old, crashing my bike, and splitting my chin open on the curb. Blood everywhere. Panic everywhere. My mother had run outside barefoot, scooped me up, and held me while I screamed. In the emergency room, she sang softly to distract me while they stitched my skin back together. That night, she kissed my forehead and told me I was brave. She told me I'd be a doctor someday. That memory ruined everything. Because it meant she knew how to love me once. She just stopped when my sister was born, and I became the strong one. The backup, the one who could be sacrificed. 2 weeks after I was kicked out, I made one last mistake. I went back to the house. They were at church. I still had a spare key. I just needed my laptop, the one with my applications, essays, and my entire future inside it. My old room was already stripped bare when I got there. Posters gone, desk empty, like I'd never existed. Then I heard a voice behind me. You're not supposed to be here. It was my sister. She stood in the doorway holding her phone like a weapon. Mom said if you came back, I should call the police. I begged. Just for my work. Just 5 minutes. She didn't move. You made your choice, she said coldly. Now live with it. I left without the laptop. Without my past. And without my last illusion. That was the day I stopped believing my sister was innocent and, years later, when I saw her smiling beside my sick mother online, asking strangers for sympathy, I finally understood just how carefully they had rewritten the story, and who they had decided to blame. Medical school didn't heal me, but it gave me structure, rules, clear lines between right and wrong. Exams didn't guilt trip you. Patients didn't ask about your sister. No one told me I was selfish for wanting more. If I worked hard enough, I earned my place. Simple, honest, I learned to live inside hospital walls. Bad coffee. Call rooms that smelled like antiseptic and exhaustion. 80-hour weeks that left no room for memories. The further I went, the quieter my family became. Or maybe I just stopped listening. Then one night during a late shift, a nurse handed me her phone. Is this your family? She asked carefully. On the screen was a crowdfunding page. My father's face filled the video thumbnail, lit by a kitchen light I recognized instantly. He looked older, smaller, afraid. The title read, "Help us save a wife and mother." I pressed play. My wife has cancer, he said, voice breaking. The bills are overwhelming. Our youngest daughter gave up everything to care for her. Our eldest, well, she's a doctor now, but she's chosen not to be involved. Chosen. The word hit harder than any insult. The video cut to photos: my mother in a hospital bed, my sister holding her hand, the family home behind them. Every picture was carefully framed, and in every one, I was missing. Not accidentally. Cropped out with surgical precision. I scrolled. The description was worse. We respect our eldest daughter's choices, but we cannot rely on her. Comments poured in by the hundreds. What kind of doctor abandons her own mother? This generation is heartless. Career over, family disgusting. But buried between them were quieter voices. If a child goes no contact, something happened. Why is only one daughter expected to sacrifice? I found my sister's post next. A filtered photo of my mother in a headscarf. The caption accused me without using my name. Some people choose success over family. One choose my mom. Thousands of likes. Heart emojis. Strangers call her brave. Calling me a monster. I sat alone in the staff lounge, pager buzzing, hands shaking, not with guilt, but with rage. They had taken my silence and turned it into a confession. My boundaries of cruelty. That night, for the first time in years, I opened one of my father's old emails. We saw your white coat photo, it read. Your mom always knew you'd be a doctor. Rachel is struggling. Maybe you could call. No apology. No acknowledgement of trash bags. Just another reminder that my existence was only valuable when it was useful. That's when it hit me. They didn't miss me. They missed what I could do for them. And when my mother finally showed up at my hospital, gripping my wrist and whispering, "You're a surgeon, now you can save me," I realized I wasn't being asked to help. I was being summoned back into the role I had escaped. 3 weeks after the fundraiser went live, my mother was admitted to my hospital. I stood at the foot of her bed in a white coat that still felt unreal some days, staring at a woman who looked smaller than the one who had thrown my life into trash bags. Her hair was thinner, her voice is weaker. But her eyes, those hadn't changed at all. The moment we were alone, she grabbed my wrist. "You'll fix this," she said, not asked. Said, "You know people here. You'll make sure I get the best care. And you'll help with the bills. After everything we did for you, you owe me." There it was again. The phrase that had shaped my entire life. For a split second, I was 18 again, standing in a kitchen, holding a ruined acceptance letter. But the feeling passed. Something inside me went quiet. Not numb, steady. I reviewed her chart like any other patient. Stage 3. Complicated but operable. Expensive. In a small office later, a billing coordinator explained the options, sliding a screen toward me. "There's a family assistance program," she said gently. "If an immediate family member who works here signs off, we can reduce the financial burden. It won't erase the bills, but it helps." A single checkbox. My name beside it. One signature, and my mother would receive special treatment, lower costs, softer consequences. The system I had clawed my way into could cushion her fall. I stared at that box for a long time. I thought of sleeping on a futon, of losing my laptop. My sister is threatening to call the police. Of being labeled strong every time I was expected to bleed quietly. "I can't sign that," I said finally. The coordinator blinked. "Are you sure?" "Many employees, it's not a paperwork issue," I said. It's a boundary. The day of surgical planning, my mother tried again. You'll be in the room, she insisted. You'll make sure nothing goes wrong. You'll be treated like every other patient, I said calmly. Her voice cracked. I'm your mother. And I was your daughter, I replied. When you decided my future was negotiable. She whispered it then, desperate and raw. You owe me. No, I said quietly. I paid that debt a long time ago. The surgery was brutal. The alarms screamed. Orders flew. Her heart stuttered on the monitor. As they wheeled her fully under the lights, I leaned close and spoke words I'd been holding for years. If you're looking for a miracle, I murmured, ask your favorite child. She survived. That surprised everyone. But survival wasn't the end of her consequences, because when the bills started arriving, and the house began slipping through their fingers, they finally learned what it meant to live without me saving them. My mother lived. That alone shocked people. When the story gets told secondhand, they expect a cleaner ending, one where I let her die on the table and walk away without looking back. But real life isn't written for applause. She survived the surgery, moved to the ICU, and then slowly back to a room where she complained about the food and the nurses. If nothing had changed. What changed came later. The bills arrived in waves. Notices, warnings, phone calls. My father finally called me one evening, his voice thin with panic. We're drowning, he said. Your mom thought you would help. She said you had access to some program. There is, I replied evenly. Did she tell you I refused to sign it? Silence. She said you couldn't, he whispered. I chose not to, I corrected. Why, he asked, genuinely confused. That question hardened something in me. Dad, I said quietly, when Mom packed my clothes into trash bags and told me I wasn't family anymore, did you worry about whether that would ruin my life? He didn't answer. When Rachel threatened to call the police on me for stepping into my own room, did you stop her? His breath hitched. I didn't sign, I continued, because for once, I believed what you all told me, that I wasn't family. I'm just respecting the contract. 6 months later, the house was gone. No more porch photos. No more garden posts. Just a small apartment and filtered silence online. My sister eventually called. She sounded exhausted, stripped of the confidence that came from always being chosen. You got what you wanted, she said weakly. No, I replied. I got what I needed. We met once after that. She showed me our mother's old diary pages filled with bitterness, jealousy, and a truth that finally made sense. My mother hadn't just feared losing me. She had resented becoming the woman I was becoming. My success was proof of everything she never got to be. That knowledge didn't heal me, it freed me. A year later, I stood on a stage accepting an award for ethical practice. On my office wall hang 2 framed papers. One is my Harvard acceptance letter, the one she tried to erase. The other is her apology letter written only when she needed saving. I framed them together, so I'd never forget the pattern. People ask if I regret it. I don't regret refusing to save her from consequences. I regret how long it took me to stop saving everyone else. So I'll ask you this, if the people who broke you came back years later demanding rescue, would you bleed for them one last time? Or would you finally choose yourself and let the world call you heartless for it? Thanks for watching the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon.